This is the Bat Flip Podcast. Now here's your host, Damien, David, and Matt.
There goes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of the Bat Flip Podcast. My name is Matt here today. I am joined by David and a special guest, Andrew Vanderhei. He's going to help us do a little mock draft here today on the show. So, the Major League Baseball draft is coming up on Sunday, and we're going to do a little bit of predicting here today. So, first off, David, Andrew, how are y'all doing today?
I'm doing great. It's exciting time in baseball, right? The mock draft or the regular draft, the All-Star break, and then the trade deadline all coming up. So this is high time for the Bat Flip Podcast. It's exciting. Last year's mock draft went really well. I'm excited to get back in here and do 2025, and hopefully, keep these going. They're pretty fun, and hopefully you guys enjoy them because I enjoy them. Andrew, how you doing this evening?
Yeah, doing good. The Cubs are good. What's there to complain about?
Right.
But yeah, it's busiest time of the year. Everybody wants their team to trade for the best players available. Same thing with the draft. And it's always interesting and to go in and dive in, whether it's college or prep, and try and predict and just see how the draft might play out.
Yeah, I can tell you there is one thing to complain about.
The Braves.
The Braves are pretty bad. That's been disappointing, but we might be talking about them high in the draft here next year, which would be nice. But yeah, I guess we can start off here, and just a quick reminder to everybody who maybe isn't the biggest draft person. The way it works, the draft in Major League Baseball is a lot different from other sports. Basically, each team gets a bonus pool of money that they can give signing bonuses to players with based on where they're picking. So like if you've got the number one pick, you have a slot value assigned to that pick. And as you can see on the screen, the Nationals have the number one pick. Their slot value is $11 million. The Angels have the number two pick. Their slot value is $10 million. And basically the way it works is each pick all the way through the first 10 rounds has a slot value. And that money all adds up into a bonus pool, and you can spend whatever amount of money you want to in each pick as long as you hit the minimum. There's a few other little rules about what you can offer guys without losing the pick next year if they don't sign, stuff like that. But to keep it simple, basically you have a pool of money based on where you're picking, and you can base, and teams will make their decision based off of how much money they have. Maybe they have comp picks, so they have an extra amount of money in the first round they can use to sign somebody for more money that might be choosing to go to school or something. There's a lot more. The financial aspect of it is a lot bigger of a deal in baseball than in any other sport, because of the option for the player to return to college or go out of high school to college. Or for and then teams obviously want to save some of that money for later on too sometimes. So I guess with that explanation being there, David, Andrew, do y'all have anything to add to that?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. We talked about it with Greg at IV Futures a little bit ago, Greg Zumack, and a lot of this draft process it's common knowledge to the hardcore fan, but to the kind of more casual fan who's jumping in to watch, once in a while, the baseball draft is a lot less like the NFL draft or the NBA draft, and a lot more like fitting pieces of a puzzle together. And so our best guesses here are going to be maybe got some of that big picture puzzle in mind, and not necessarily just seeing those number one players go off the board and trying to take best player available and stuff like that. And, I would say you never, ever draft for major league need. If your team is struggling at pitcher, right, you're not necessarily going to make your first round pick a pitcher at the Major League Baseball draft here.
Absolutely. And I will say that sometimes drafting for organizational need is something that happens where a team might just have all pitchers in their farm system. They might want to grab a couple position players or vice versa. That's something that we've definitely seen. The team picking number two has done that. The Angels picked like every pitcher, or every pick they made was a pitcher a couple years ago. So that's definitely something to look out for as well. But I guess without further ado, we can start off with the number one pick. Very interesting week. I guess we haven't had an episode since this happened, but the Nationals, literally a week before the draft, fired their general manager, Mike Rizzo, I believe it was on Sunday. So yesterday, and it was a shocking move. They also fired manager Davey Martinez. So big curveball for the Nationals, and I guess that kind of makes it where we really have no idea what they're going with this because they don't even have a GM now. So Andrew, you get to be their GM today. Who are you going to pick at the number 1 overall pick for the Washington Nationals?
Well, I know Mike Bartolo or whatever the guy's name is who's running the team for the next half season, but I really wanted to take Holiday. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. But it's just hard because outside of the draft now it's like, well, are they going to trade Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams maybe? And I think the only real option they have, because this guy isn't going to be running the team next year, most likely. I think you just take the safest pick. And to me, that's Cade Anderson. He was so dominant in the College World Series, and innings have kind of been a big thing this year in college. He had 119 innings pitched. That's eclipses everybody that's in the first round. And I'm going to use Lance Brozdowski's comps here for pitchers that I take just because Lance is the best in the business. And I think he's doing MLB Network for the draft. He put out a video where he just kind of went into the underlying metrics on the pitchers. Cade Povich, Max Fried, some kind of mix there was his comp. And for Washington, I know you said they don't draft for need in the MLB draft, but they need pitching. They need everything, really. There's a reason why Mike Rizzo got fired. And I think Cade Anderson really kind of, if they keep Gore, then you got Gore, Anderson, Sakura's coming. I know you love him, David. And yeah, I mean, it's just the safe pick. And it's hard to really project them to do something crazy when there's so much other stuff going on organizationally.
Absolutely, and kind of interesting. That would make 2 of the last 3 first overall picks being pitchers out of LSU.
Yep.
And yeah, I think the Nationals have typically picked a lot of college guys. In fact, in that draft 2 years ago, they picked Dylan Cruz out of LSU as well.
Yep.
So definitely interesting number 1 pick there. I like it. Cade Anderson. I think he's got a good balance of stuff. I think that Max Fried comp actually sounds pretty interesting to me. He's kind of got a little bit of everything, but I guess we can go to number 2, and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim will be picking number 2. The Angels, this player will probably be in the big leagues in September. The way the Angels do things, if not then, it'll be early next year. Christian Moore just got called up a few weeks ago, so we've talked about him a little bit, but he was their first round pick last year. And I guess David, you're going to make your first pick of this draft, and number 2 with the Angels.
I'm not going to pretend to know what the Angels are going to do, right? I think I got the even picks. Andrew got the odd picks. I picked first last year. My thought process is pretty clear for some of my lower picks. I feel pretty strongly actually about some of the guys down further in the draft, but here at the top, man, I think if Cade Anderson goes number 1 like this, I have honestly no idea what the Angels do, because I think they rush to the board with Cade Anderson if he's available. My assumption is they just take one of the starters. I think it's between Anderson, Arnold, and Liam Doyle as their 3 guys, the college starters. The Angels love them, a college arm. They also have Ben Joyce from Tennessee already on the roster. So my thought is they're going to cut an underslot deal with Liam Doyle and draft him at number 2. He's got that big fastball. We know that guy. He was in the College World Series a little bit. He's a good pitcher. It's not necessarily the top pick, but again, we're trying to build some puzzles, try to figure out, kind of anticipate what these GMs are going to do. I think Liam Doyle had, with that College World Series performance, cemented himself into consideration for this number 2 spot. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if it's Jamie Arnold, but I think Liam Doyle is just a little bit more impactful, where he could potentially be a reliever immediately and then kind of back into starting, kind of the Garrett Crochet path, if you will. And that's another guy from Tennessee. Yep. So I'm going to go Liam Doyle here. Maybe it messes up some stuff, but I just think the Angels are going to be hunting that speed to the majors, because they've been doing that for years now.
Yeah, I like the pick. I think you look at Liam Doyle as a guy that will move fast, and the Angels have hovered around 500 basically all year. So if they went on a 6 or 8 game win streak or something, you could see them need a reliever down the stretch, and Liam Doyle coming up to be a reliever rest of the season. Sometime in September, helping maybe in a stretch run could be interesting for the Angels. But I guess picking at number 3. Andrew will get another pick here, and it's going to be the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners are currently, really looking good to make the playoffs this year, and they're going to add to their farm system with the number 3 pick. So I guess Andrew, what you think about the Mariners at number 3?
Yeah, when we talk about the Mariners, I think the biggest thing to bring up first is I'm pretty sure they have the highest bonus pool in this year's draft. Yeah, 17 million. So I really like Seth Hernandez. He's a prep right-handed pitcher, which is poison in the top 3 in the draft. Kind of my thinking here is it's either a college bat. They take, I don't even know how many prep shortstops they've taken in the last 3 years. It's crazy. And it's smart for teams to do that. That's pretty valuable prospect capital. And Ike Irish is here. You cut a deal with him, and then you still have so much money to play with later on. And Ava Arquette, that was kind of who I had slotted in if things went a certain way in the top 3 that haven't. And Jamie Arnold's there. Can I try and pitch you on something, David?
Yeah.
So I did a mock last night just to kind of run through it really quick. Would you be willing to buy Seth Hernandez with the Rays pick? Because if he doesn't, he's probably not going to go early. And we saw this with Caminiti last year where he slid, and I think he had a commitment. I can't name it off.
Caminiti, I think was LSU. Yep.
Yeah.
But they bought him out, and I feel like we see that so much with the slot and teams manipulating that to their advantage. And the Rays jump out to me, second most bonus pool in this year's draft. Them taking a pitcher, it's like, I don't know, a lot of things line up for me there, and I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to do that.
If he was still there, he would go at 14. How about that? So
okay.
I don't know if I feel differently about 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would definitely go by the Rays, I would say.
All right. Well, let's see what happens then. I'll take Ava Arquette.
All right. I think Arquette deserves to be he's like normally a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So I think that's still really good value for the Mariners, and they have been good at grabbing that kind of really good talent in the middle infield with Cole Young, with Cole Emerson. And I don't want to toot our own horn too much, but they were one of our 2 picks that we got right last year. We had Jurangelo Sinche to the Mariners last year. So maybe we're right again with Ava Arquette.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting, and kind of a local pick there with Oregon State being pretty near Seattle.
And he was a UW guy originally too. So
yes. So but yeah, we can move on and pick at number 4. And this is a team that is in total disarray right now with just the way that they're being run. That the major league team is record-breaking bad. The farm system's not really all that good. So the Rockies need to do a lot of work. And before I turn it over to you, David, I think I know exactly what pick this is, and it's a pretty cool pick, I think, for the Rockies.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go ahead and it's Ethan Holiday, and we don't even have to spend much time on this one. Ethan Holiday is a really good prospect, but I feel pretty strongly the family's steering him and the Rockies together. I think the demand in the bonus pool is going to be a lot, especially if the Mariners took Ethan Holiday. I think the demand would just be most of their bonus pool, and it feels just right, I think, for him to go 4 here. He's either going 4 or 1 would be my feeling. And if, as we've run it, he's going 4, but I don't think that's any slight on Ethan Holiday. He's probably the best prospect in this draft. He's probably not quite as interesting as Jackson, but I still think that a holiday in Coors, it's the right thing. It's good. It's good for baseball if that happens. And I don't think he'll move quite as fast as Jackson, but I do think he will be up and he will flourish in the Rockies organization, and it'll really help their prospect standing, because he's the kind of guy who can, like, he'll end up being a high end prospect and kind of buoy that farm system for a long time.
He's definitely a lot more like his dad than Jackson is. Power hitting, explosive bat. He did struggle a little bit this year. But I mean, that just kind of, the crown's heavy, I guess. And who knows, maybe this sets up Jackson Holiday to the Rockies at some point. That'd be fun. I'd love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's got to be the pick, right? Like, I mean, that all just matches up.
Absolutely. So I guess we can move on down to number 5 here. This is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals picking 5th. They're having a pretty good season as well, although I think they haven't been quite as good in recent days.
Nope.
So they've in fact they've fallen down to only 5 games above 500 and 30% playoff odds this year. But this is a draft show, so we won't talk about that. But yeah, the Cardinals at number 5. So Andrew, I know y'all are both Cubs fans, so I'm going to give you the dishonor of making this pick.
Yeah, I'm just looking who's like the 200th ranked guy.
Yeah, right. We're gonna be unbiased here today.
Let me see what I got. I have a couple names that kind of jump out to me. I just want to make sure I'm gonna do my due diligence here and not cub it up. Okay. So I've seen Eli Willits connected a lot, and he kind of screams Cardinals to me. He's just good at everything. Maybe not great at everything, but I mean, that's kind of their archetype. Don't do it yet. I don't know how far Ike Irish is going to fall in this draft. I don't think he's going much later than this. Weatherholt's in AAA now. So they're I think they'd probably want to pair him up. I'm gonna go Eli Willits. I wanted to take Irish, but Willits, I mean, it just feels like a Cardinal, and they just need upside, and I think you're kind of looking more at Willits for that than Irish.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. The Cardinals picking a 17-year-old, that's pretty crazy. I believe he's one of the youngest players in this draft, if I'm not mistaken. So that always helps out. And this guy's a switch hitter. Very, very interesting pick there. But guys, we can move on and look at the number 6 pick here, and this is going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are perennially picking in the top 10. The Pirates they have a couple of super high-end pitchers, but other than that, not a lot there. So what are the Pirates going to do here at the number 6 pick, David?
I've got an idea, but I think I'm going to say, because last year we got the Pirates pick, right? That was one of our 2, Connor Griffin. The Pirates took the guy that was just kind of like the best player on the board at their pick at 9 last year. I was thinking they could do it with Seth Hernandez here. I just think Hernandez is going to command a lot, and the Pirates are going to want to cut that more under slot value here to try and increase the value later in the draft. So I don't think that the Pirates are going to go get one of these high school shortstops or Seth Hernandez. I think Seth Hernandez is going to take a big deal. I think they're going to go with Jamie Arnold from FSU. Think they are going to continue to build that pitching structure around, Paul Skeens. Think they recognize that window with Skeens is in the very near future. Arnold's a pretty quick moving guy. And then they cut an underslot deal with him to go out and get one of those talented, high schoolers in the second round here and try and build that farm system at the top and the bottom over the first 2 picks. So Jamie Arnold's interesting. They don't have a ton of really good lefties right now in that Pirates organization, right? So I think Bubba Chandler's a righty, right? So all three of those lefties go in the top 6. I think that seems pretty reasonable. I think Jamie Arnold in a normal draft is like a number 2 type guy. So, it's a good pitcher. The guy got some Chris Sale comps. I think the ceiling is there for Jamie Arnold. So, I'm happy with that one.
And he was in the draft last year, it's probably going. He's got a real good shot at going number 1. He trailed only Chase Burns and Hagen Smith in 2024 in strikeouts. He's that caliber of pitcher. I mean, he performed on the Cape a little bit too, which for pitchers is kind of something I've been looking into a little bit more. I'm a big Cape guy for hitters, but yeah, Arnold's the real deal. And I don't think the Sale comp is that crazy. He throws that slider. It's more like a sweeper, I guess, but he throws it so much. And I think that's really what you're aiming for if you're the Pirates. And when you trade Paul Skeens and you get a haul, you're going to need a pitcher. So it kind of works in for you there.
Please don't, because it'll be the Dodgers if he does that. So we can't have that.
No,
we need the Pirates to build. That's what we want. With the Pirates to build, they can do it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we can move on to number 7. This is going to be the Miami Marlins, who they're in 3rd place right now, actually in the National League East. They've been they've been an interesting team where they haven't had a lot of high end prospects, but they got a pretty decent amount of pretty good young players. But the farm system's not great there in Miami. So I guess, Andrew, if you want to make the Miami Marlins pick here at number 7.
Yeah, I think a little similar to the last couple picks. We're still in the range where slotting and getting guys under slots going to be a factor. I won't drag this one out too much. I think it's like Irish here under slot. They have not as much money as you'd think, but they're still in that upper tier for a slot. They probably cut a deal here, get a really good bat who's probably a corner outfielder more than a catcher. That's why the question mark's by the catcher. But get a little more offensive upside that they don't have, just maybe because their system's so young right now. Get him here, and then I'm sure they'll be swimming in the prep pool to say later on in the draft.
Absolutely. And I want to give a big war eagle here for Ike Irish. So gotta love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we can move on to number 8, and the Toronto Blue Jays, who are currently looking very good in the big leagues right now, having a nice year. They've got a 3-game lead in the American League East. But yeah, the Blue Jays picking here at number 8. So I guess David, if you want to go ahead and make the Blue Jays pick here, go for it.
So the Blue Jays supposedly are between the college starters and the high schoolers. And right now, if I'm going to pick a high schooler, my favorite one is probably JoJo Parker, after kind of doing some research today. And I was reading through all the pipeline stuff, and the pipeline has the Blue Jays connected to JoJo Parker. If it were me, I'm taking JoJo Parker right here. So that's what I'm going to do for the Blue Jays in this mock draft. I think he's the best prep shortstop. I think he's a better hitter than Willits. And I think if you're talking about college, or like high school, draft caliber players, I want the bat more than the glove every time. We're going to run into, there's a whole lot of these guys, and me and Andrew were talking about it today. You're going to have to parse between these very minor details.
Yeah.
But to me, Parker was the best bat. And it's like, if you're going to have to go, well, this one guy's a really good fielder. I think Steele Hall is the really good fielder. You got a good fielder. You got a guy who's really, really blazing fast. You got some guys with good power, but maybe he can't hit as good. You got some guys with some hit tools. Parker's got both the hit tool and the power for a lot. He feels like the Connor Griffin of this draft. I wanted to take him at 6. I'm going to start kicking myself with the Pirates, totally snag him on me, because that was the pick I felt like, but I kind of feel like if Jamie Arnold is there, the Pirates should jump on it. So, Blue Jays are definitely going to be, they'll be biting on Jamie Arnold or whoever, I think, if the college names drop. But JoJo Parker is my pick, and I feel good about it.
Yeah, and I mean, Nimala and Parker now is kind of your future, which way back last year when we were doing this, we kind of roasted Toronto for how much we hated their farm system. But it's all kind of working out now. Barger's breaking out. And yeah, adding Parker down the road kind of lengthens the timeline for that front office.
Yeah, and he could probably play third. I think Namala might stick at short, but Parker could slide to third, and you feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Yep. And Namal is having a pretty good year in the minors too. He's been solid. So I guess we can move on and looking at number 9, whose first round pick last year is made his big league debut already. It's the Cincinnati Reds. They picked Chase Burns last year. He's looking pretty good in the big leagues so far. So, but Andrew, who are you thinking the Reds are going to go with here at number 9?
Yeah, just looking at their trends, a lot of pitching. And I think that's always something they need to prioritize in their little league baseball park. I think I'm going to go with our first college right-handed pitcher. Yeah, I'm just going to take Kyson Witherspoon. There's been a lot of noise about Tyler Bremner. I just like Witherspoon a little bit more. And it's kind of funny. I just said this today. Witherspoon's little arm hitch he does in his delivery gives me Matt Latos vibes, and I've like a weird visualization of Matt Latos for some reason. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of looking at Witherspoon joining, all the guys they already have. And yeah, I mean, the right-handed class this year is kind of weird. But Witherspoon, big fastball, good slider. I guess it's the more like relevant comparison is like a Giolito or Cease with his delivery. It's a very purposeful hiding of the ball behind his body before he pitches. I don't like watching it. It kind of like stresses me out. But yeah, I mean, I think of all the right-handed pitchers, he's probably the most polished up to this point, and he'll probably be up quick. And yeah, I mean, if you're the Reds, just keep pounding pitching and hope those young bats develop.
Right. It's worth noting. I didn't have Witherspoon written down. I just don't like him. I don't feel like he's going to be that particularly good. We talked about, I think, just some of the guys that we liked last year before. And it's some of those guys in the middle of the draft. I really like Ryan Waldschmidt. They look really good right now. And Kyson Witherspoon is just a guy I don't really like. I don't feel like that's going to be as impactful, especially compared to Chase Burns in terms of stuff. It's just not quite the same impact in that first round pick. I like Tyler Bremner more. Okay. If you're talking specifically right-handed pitcher, we've got him 12 and 18. I think that's just based off of pipeline. I think I would rather have Bremner, but I'm not going to complain. You did the pick. We're going to roll.
That's fine.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to number 10 here, the Chicago White Sox, who are still terrible at the big league level. They have built a little bit better of a farm system than they had here a couple years ago. In fact, I believe they just called up Colton Montgomery a couple days ago.
Yep.
That was interesting to see. Also, Hagen Smith was their first round pick last year. He's looked pretty good in Double-A, maybe a few too many walks, but he just came back from a minor injury he had. So, the White Sox picking here at number 10. Believe it's your turn, David. So go ahead and pick for the White Sox.
Yeah, I imagine the White Sox fans, if listening, would be rather disappointed that I already pulled JoJo Parker off the board. I think they need to be hoping he drops to 10. I think that's the floor for Parker, and that's what happened with last year with Connor Griffin made it to 9. If Parker made it to 10, the White Sox snag him immediately. The White Sox need to go youth. I believe Steele Hall is still 17. I think he's the 17-year-old. Andrew, am I wrong on that?
Let me check.
One of the high school shortstops is like early 17.
Both him and Willits are 17.
Okay, yeah, So Steele Hall is the call then. The youngest available player for the White Sox. Extend out that window as much as you can. Grab the youth and the inexperience and the ceiling, the potential. Obviously, the glove is there, which can help him rise and focus on hitting, but I think this is a great compensation pick versus JoJo Parker. But I think if you're a White Sox fan, you're hoping Parker makes it to 10. I think that's the idea. He feels like this year's Connor Griffin for me.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting if Steele Hall does go to the White Sox. He will get to play in his hometown if he's in Double-A. So interesting to see there. But I guess moving on, number 11 here. Is going to be the Oakland Athletics, who have started to graduate a few guys from their farm system. Some young guys really have made pretty good impressions for them here over the last year or two. Tyler Soderstrom's done pretty well. Nick Kurtz has come up this year and done pretty well. Obviously they've got a little bit of an offensive core with Lawrence Butler already there, and Brent Rooker. The pitching's been a mess. But at number 11, the A's. Who are they going to pick, Andrew?
Yeah, the A's, it's all worked out kind of in a weird way. I feel like they're the most hated team for a while just because how they operated. But they're kind of seeing the fruits of their labor now. I think it's probably college pick here. I had Montgomery going there like at 4 last year. And I'm going to stay with the college outfield. You kind of get your pick of certain guys, but I'm gonna go Brendan Summerhill. Arizona. I think he's from Chicago. I think he's a Chicago prep guy. But yeah, just athletic. The big question with him is if you're gonna be able to tap into more power in the future. But I mean, that feels like an ace pick, like kind of all around player and maybe a little bit more potential for power. Yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong with Summerhill here.
Absolutely. And, if the last 2 picks they've made are an indication, he could end up doing pretty well, as their last 2 picks were Nick Kurtz, who we mentioned, and also Jacob Wilson, who is a starting shortstop for the All-Star team.
Yep.
So definitely a place that seems to have done a pretty good job the last couple years in the first round. I guess we can move on. Number 12, a team that's had a pretty up and down first round over the last several years. A couple years ago, they were the world champions. Last year, they were bad enough to get the number 12 pick in the draft. And that's going to be the Texas Rangers. So David, who do you have for the Texas Rangers?
So I'm going to finally make a weird pick. I think the Rangers, I don't think we know what the Rangers are going to do. I just have written down, go offense. I think the Rangers, because you got Carlson here. Pierce has been mocked to him. I don't think they go any of those guys. Merrick Houston is a glove first guy. Aloy's got some hit tool concerns. I think the Rangers go into the high school ranks and pull the Marlins who grabbed PJ Orlando last year. I think they go grab Xavier Nayens, big power third baseman, 6'4", high schooler. Draft him at 12, under slot, but enough to pull him out of his college commitment. And they obviously, it doesn't matter in terms of like major league need, but the Rangers need that upside, and their bats have gone cold. Their park has seemingly evaporated in that, the hit factor, right? It's one of the worst hitting parks in baseball. A guy like Nayens could develop that power, that pop to make it not matter how good the park is for hitters, right? So that's where I'm going. The high schooler Xavier Nayens at 12, big time, like reach kind of, but I don't know. I like him. That's one of the guys I'm hoping is on the board for the Cubs to choose later on. So Rangers, hopefully you enjoy that one.
Yeah, I also have offense written down for them at that pick. But yeah, Nayens is, just Kobe Mayo, basically. Maybe a little more athletic is kind of what you're looking at there.
Yeah, I really like it too. And as you mentioned, reaches are something that definitely happens more in baseball than anything else, especially with the slot values and everything. So I like having a little bit of a reach here to go with, and pick a guy that's probably ranked outside the top 20 and most services pick him number 12. So definitely interesting there. But I guess we can move on. Number 13 in the draft is going to be the San Francisco Giants. Having a pretty decent year so far. Their last 2 first-round picks have done pretty well. Bryce Eldridge is obviously one of the top prospects in all of baseball right now, and James Tibbs has looked pretty good in the minors, and he just got shipped off to Boston in the Rafael Devers trade. So the Giants here, number 13. Andrew, who do you have going to the Giants?
Yeah, I guess I'm just going to take David's favorite college right-handed pitcher in the draft.
That's, hey.
Yeah, Bremner, maybe this is his floor. I don't really have a good feel for where he's going to go. But yeah, I mean, his year last year was a little bit better, depending, I guess, what you were looking for. But yeah, he's another guy with kind of a little bit of an awkward delivery. I'm not a huge fan of the right-handed pitchers this year. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of the range where he's been. I think he's been a big Cub target in the mock drafts, but adding pitching, to a team that kind of sneaky doesn't have a lot of it in their system. Yeah, I don't hate this one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tyler Brimner going number 13 there. So I guess we can move on and look at number 14. And this is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. And I believe y'all already hinted at this. And it's going to be Seth Hernandez there. So, David, do you want to talk a little bit more about Seth Hernandez?
Very briefly, because we did mention it. My wager is that if there's one wrong pick in this draft, is that Seth Hernandez didn't go at 3. I think that might just be what happens. But I like the Arquette pick to Seattle. And then I like that if Hernandez falls out of the top 3, he doesn't go till 14, where the Rays take advantage of the bonus pool and try to pull in the best starting pitcher. A lot of these teams are going to be trying to cut underslot deals. That's why we have Xavier Nayans, Bremner, Kyson Witherspoon, Ike Irish, a lot of these guys going a little, in these slots. You've still got Billy Carlson, Daniel Pierce, some of these shortstops. If the Rays can flex that muscle of the draft pool, then it would be odd, but it would be, kind of nice for them to finally go out and do something with it. And I think Seth Hernandez is a really good pitcher. He's going to throw 100, like very Rays coded. So it really makes a lot of sense. I just don't know if this happens, but the very specific nature of this has allowed for it to work, because I think a lot of the picks between Seattle and the Rays are not going to pick Seth Hernandez kind of under any circumstances. So it's Seattle that I think would have to take Seth Hernandez for him not to fall here.
Well, there's also another team that could just say fuck it and go crazy, and that's the Nationals.
Yeah.
And just totally throw out the entire logic of the draft and just say, no, what, this guy's pretty good. We took Strasburg and he was pretty good. So, but yeah, I mean, I have written down for Hernandez, special right-handed pitching prospect. I don't know if I've ever read more glowing makeup reviews for a player than Hernandez. I don't know. It just, when so many people have such high things to say about somebody, especially an 18-year-old, like I feel like in the sports kind of brain, we're kind of numb to 18-year-olds getting high praise for character. Like, that's a huge deal to me. And he's got the stuff. That's not even a question. He was the 2024 and 2025 California Gatorade Player of the Year. I think this guy's going to be, I mean, maybe Prep Skeens is kind of like the vibe. But yeah,
I think we've drafted him too low.
Yeah,
he talked me into it. I think we've drafted him too low. I don't think he falls out of the top 5.
Yeah, I think he's a ridiculous prep prospect. I don't know if we've ever seen one quite like him as a pitcher.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. If he went to the Rays, that'd be scary, because they seem to be able to figure out pitchers very, very well in Tampa. So I guess we'll move on. Number 15 is going to be the Boston Red Sox. Last year they picked Braden Montgomery in the first round. And he seems to have worked out pretty well so far. A couple other guys, Kyle Till was a big first-round pick that's been on prospect lists very high for a while. And Marcelo Mayer just made his big league debut, who was a first-round pick just a few years ago. So I guess it's going to be Andrew's pick here. So, Andrew, who are the Red Sox going to take at number 15?
I kind of feel like I'm about to snipe myself, even though how crazy is Gage Wood to Boston? What do you think about that fit?
I think you said my favorite right-handed pitcher was Tyler Bremner, and you overlooked Gage Wood. Gage Wood is my favorite college pitcher in this draft. Yeah, I mean, I think putting Gage Wood away from the Cubs in our mock draft is perfect, because that's where I want Gage Wood to land.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean,
sounds good to me.
Other than Gage, I think the other guy available that stands out to me is Gavin Feen. They've been connected to him a lot. With Breslow there, and I mean, it's his team. He traded Devers. Like, I feel like that's the ultimate, like, take the ball and run move.
Yeah.
He gets his pitcher, snipes the Cubs a little bit. The Red Sox and the Twins before the Cubs is terrible.
Oh,
I mean, those two teams, I feel like, have always been connected to the Cubs guys.
Yeah.
I love Gage Wood. He's a dog. He's an animal. I dropped the comp on him. If starting doesn't work out, I think he's David Bednar.
Yeah.
He's just, I mean, the no-hitter is just, it's one of the most dominant pitching performances, maybe in baseball, not even college. Just fuck you fastball the entire game. I love watching pitchers like that. And I think he's kind of Boston coded in that way. Like, I feel like historically they've always had those big time pitchers with the big time fastballs, and yeah, it sucks as a Cubs fan to see him go. I see the crowd is reacting as well.
No, that's also a Murray State fan too.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I understand.
He's mad. He doesn't.
I was gonna say the 19 strikeout no hitter was very impressive, but we got to remember who he was playing.
That's a good Murray State team. That's a good Murray State team.
They were okay.
But that's what I expect a major league caliber ace to do against a team that doesn't have the major league talent like a Murray State, but is scrappy and could totally, have beaten a pitcher with less of that just like ace caliber, stuff. That's why I love Gage Wood so much. And I respect Murray State, and being able to do that to Murray State is woo.
Yeah, I feel like, and the concern with him is the history and the lack of innings and the shoulder impingement at the start of the year, right as he joined the rotation. And, there's definitely a higher risk that he winds up in the bullpen, maybe than like a guy like Cade Horton, who kind of had that similar path of, get to Omaha and then your draft stock just explodes after you pitch lights out. But sometimes you just got to pick based on vibes and energy. And I mean, I love watching him pitch. I love pitchers that are pissed off.
Exactly. You see that now you're getting it. This is why I want him. This is my hope for Cubs. So we're not putting him on the Cubs. I'm going to double snipe though. I'm going to double snipe the Cubs here with the Twins. We're going to,
no,
I don't know if you're, I'm saying, I don't know who you're going to, I don't know who you're excited about though. I have two guys that I like here. So,
well, you get to pick one here. The Twins picking number 16. They've been a little bit up and down in their first round over the last several years here. They picked Kalen Culpepper last year. But the Twins at number 16, David, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, when we had Greg Zumak on the show a couple weeks ago, he was talking about Daniel Pierce the whole way through, gave us him as his favorite guy. I think if Daniel Pierce, you got Billy Carlson here too. I just, one of those shortstops is going to fall. We've elected it to be Billy Carlson, right? I don't know if it's going to be, but we've elected it to be Billy Carlson. I think the Twins are going to grab Daniel Pierce in this mock. Now, Greg has, I won't say changed his tune, but I do think that Daniel Pierce is getting mocked a lot higher than 16. So he's not really necessarily a consideration for the Cubs right now. But right now, Greg has been really enjoying Kason Cunningham. That was the kind of the consideration is, do the Twins take the Daniel Pierce, the kind of all around guy who's kind of exploding onto the scene later, the guy who's I guess you'll rage about Kason Cunningham here in a sec if you pick him with the Cubs, but those were my two kind of picks to go between, and Daniel Pierce, I just don't think is making it to the Cubs. It's a guy we've talked about already on the show. Like, he's really, really strong in terms of a prep hitter, a shortstop, a kind of guy. I think, did Greg give Carlos Correa type, not like loose comp, but like a really good hitting player who may grow into shortstop. And I like Daniel Pierce for that.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we'll move on to number 17 here, and that will be y'all's Chicago Cubs. The Cubs the last couple of years have drafted pretty well. Cade Horton is a top prospect. Matt Shaw has made his big league debut this year. He struggled a little bit, but he's young. It's his first year. He'll probably figure it out. And then Cam Smith, who they traded, is having a great year for the Houston Astros. as a rookie, and he was their first rounder last year. So pretty good picks there. But Andrew, pick for the Cubs.
You did not take who I thought you were going to pick. Yeah, I'm a Cubs fan, so I guess I'm a little more tuned into their picks specifically. It sounds like it's either prep shortstop or college pitcher. There's somebody on the board that sticks out like a sore thumb to me, though. That's neither of those things. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Aloy's there. I love Aloy. I think he's so good. Golden Spikes, SEC Player of the Year. He's got all the accolades. I won't remind Arkansas fans of the events that unfolded at their final game of the season, but I think the big thing for me that stands out with Aloy and the Cubs, they really value the Cape performance. 994 OPS in the Cape, 642 slug. He did only have 3 walks to 19 strikeouts, and that's definitely going to be the big thing for him as he gets taken by a big league team and kind of goes through that developmental process as his hit tool, and if he can consistently find the barrel of his bat. But yeah, I mean, 323 ISO this year for Arkansas. Just ridiculous. I think the other pick I would consider, I haven't seen Gavin Feen connected to the Cubs, but I think Feen and Hammond both stand out to me personally as prep guys. I don't know if the Cubs like them or not. And then Patrick Forbes is the other guy for the Cubs that I could really see them liking. But I think Aloy is too good to pass up.
I like it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Bringing in another shortstop to the Cubs organization. So I guess we can move on and look at the number 18 pick here, and that is going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks, who missed the playoffs by like one game last year. And they were they've had a little bit of a rough year. They've had some disappointment on the mound and some pitching injuries. The offense has been awesome this year. I believe last year in the draft, they picked Slade Caldwell in the first round. They Tommy Troy year before last. So their first round picks have not gone all that well over the last 4 or 5 years. But I guess David, you get to pick for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I mean, they picked a guy named Corbin Carroll, not in the first round, but
was that the last 4 years?
Yeah, it was 2022, right? So Corbin Carroll,
yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't say they drafted bad. I said their first round.
Yeah, and Ryan Waldschmidt was their comp pick last year too. He came right after Slade Caldwell. So the Diamondbacks have been drafting these kind of high octane outfielders with good stuff. The only guy I went in and wrote down my own pick for was I'm taking Slater DeBrun to the Diamondbacks because I think they're just going to try to clone as many Corbin Carrolls as they can get. I think that's a pretty reasonable strategy. Eventually, you get too many, and then you trade one of them off for the rest of your needs, right? So, Slater DeBrun is like a spark plug guy, 5'9", 5'10", but just all the potential tools. And Corbin Carroll's been able to manifest a ton of power. You just take the Corbin Carroll development path there, the workouts, because he's gotten a lot bigger. And I think you grab a high school guy with that kind of upside and energy and get him in the same Corbin Carroll training program, you might end up with a second one. So that feels I had written that pick down real early under slot. Just go ahead and prep for a nice big juicy second round pick too, and the Diamondbacks will be golden.
Absolutely. Well, I guess moving on to number 19, we've got the Baltimore Orioles here. The Orioles obviously were famous for having like one of the best prospect pools of all time just a couple years ago. They've actually been playing pretty good baseball lately. They got off to a horrible start this year, but they've really kind of righted the ship. I don't think it's going to be enough to make the playoffs, but their young guys are definitely still having a lot of an effect at the big league level. So given this being a team with so many young players in the position player core, what do y'all think the Orioles are going to do here at number 19?
I think I'm just taking David's boy. You already took me in, so I think I'm kind of in a corner here.
Jace.
Yeah, I think it's got to be. It matches up. That's the profile they like to take, and I will say the one I like Jace, but the end zone width is a problem, and they're gonna have to fix it. But I do think, I mean, this is a guy that was in the 1-1 conversation going back to last year. Yeah, I mean, I think Orioles, Brewers, I think he's going in one of these next two picks if he's there in real life. Yeah, I mean, to be that big and that athletic, there's always going to be so much potential for him. And the Orioles take the guys like that. So,
Yep. Last year they took Vance Honeycutt, who had a massive hit tool concern as well. So
that's not looking out that good either.
No, he has not been good.
I want to note real quick on Jace Laviolette. I do think the grit is so good for Jace Laviolette. He's a guy who broke his hand and then came back in the game and finished the at bat. And it's like anybody who's got that kind of heart and that kind of toughness is the kind of guy that can sit there and go, okay, well, I obviously have this issue with swing and miss. I'm going to make modifications and adjustments to get that right. So I would be I would not be surprised if somebody pops Jace Laviolette earlier. I think you could start talking about him, the Rangers at 12 probably, and maybe even earlier, honestly. But I think a lot of those early teams with the big bonus pools are going to try and go pull those high school shortstops. So where you're at with the Orioles, it's like this makes a lot of sense. We talked about it a little bit earlier. This it's right on brand, and I think he's able to change it. But I don't know if the Orioles are going to be the right team to do it. So that's kind of my thought is I wish Jace Laviolette was going to go to a team that's a little bit better about identifying and making those swing changes to gain that contact rating there.
That's why I like him to the Brewers. I think they would turn him into an absolute monster.
Well, it's a good thing you got him to the Orioles then.
Yeah, that's definitely the preferred outcome between the two. But even, I mean, he's just so. Is he the most polarizing guy in the draft this year? I feel like he probably is. Yeah, I mean, he saw the 318 ISO this year. It had dropped down from 421, which is nuts.
Yeah.
I will say only 21 at bats in the Cape, but I mean, he didn't even really hit for extra bases, which is a little like pours a little bit of cold water for me on him. But yeah, I mean, this is probably the biggest upside play in the entire draft, and to get him this late, honestly, is really a great outcome for him because he, in theory, gets to go to a team that is going to be competitive and should have a healthy infrastructure for him to develop his hit tool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we can move on to number 20 here. This is going to be the Milwaukee Brewers, who, last year they picked Braylon Payne in the first round. If I remember right, that was a pretty big surprise.
Yes.
They picked him, and he's actually been very good in the minor leagues. So it's been interesting. They had a comp pick as well in Blake Burke, who's also been good in the minor league so far. So I guess at number 20, the Brewers here, and it's David's pick. So go for it, David.
So I have like three ideas basically for the Brewers. They are doing something really, really wacky, doing something kind of wacky, and doing something that they did 2 years ago with Brock Wilken, which is just kind of take the best hitter on the board. I'm going to get funny. I'll go medium wacky. Between the three, I think they go grab Caden Bodine and grab, that's a catching kind of factory over there. And being able to take a guy like Caden Bodine, who's a good hitter, but not a great hitter, but a solid defensive catcher, and identify that guy could be like a long time catcher if you can get him hitting, and hitting major league pitching and hitting with some power. That can be a pick that could rise through your ranks really fast. It's medium wacky enough that the Brewers doing it wouldn't shock me at all. And I want to do something weird because we haven't done a whole lot of super weird picks. So we're going to go Caden Bodine to the Brewers, which, you look at the major league team, it's like, well, that's not even a need, but that's why, that's the type of thing that could get a little funky. And I've seen them connected to college bats. So Laviolette goes. I think Laviolette's a good pick for them. But I'll go Caden Bodine.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it lines up. Catchers always take a little more time than other prospects just to kind of find their footing in Major League Ball. And Contreras, I think, has 2 years left after the season. So I think timeline-wise, that does line up well. I mean, I'm sure. Well, I don't know. Maybe I do want the Brewers to trade William Contreras before they let him go to free agency. But, I think that you're not supposed to draft like that, but I think that should probably always be in the back of your mind, especially when you're a small market team like the Brewers, where you kind of do have to navigate free agency and not retaining your own players.
Absolutely. I'm having flashbacks about Caden Bodine right now as an Auburn guy from the Super Regional, so I didn't like that. But yeah, so picking at number 21 are the Houston Astros, who have apparently figured out how to be good at baseball again for the 8 billionth year in a row. Their farm system has been terrible for a while now, but they still seem to figure out a way to be good. So last year they picked Walter Janik in the first round. So the Astros, number 21, Andrew, who you got going here that's probably going to end up being a star somehow?
How do you trade Kyle Tucker and you're still like good?
They're
like,
better
how
than
ridiculous
they were.
is that?
They got better.
It's just, and I love Cam Smith. I'm happy for him, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's the secret formula or whatever. Scandals aside, it's super impressive. To lose all the core guys, kind of like the flip of the Cubs, where like they traded everybody and then they kind of went through that middle phase. The Astros are just like, whatever, like we're just gonna keep trucking along. So there's one guy on the board right now where I don't think he's going to be here in real life. I think after Irish, he's kind of the most talked about underslot option. It's Gavin Keelan, Tennessee. I think Houston's last 4 draft picks have been college players up the middle, and that trend continues here. I think Keelan, I think he's at this point pretty underrated. Obviously that Tennessee team had so many impressive players on it. A ton of them in this year's draft. But yeah, I think he's another guy where I think I might be mixing up him and Fisher. The Keelan,
he's the second baseman. I think Fisher was third. I might
even
be wrong on that.
So he was at Louisville before this season.
Yep.
He only had 99 WRC plus at Louisville, but that jumped up to 139 with Tennessee. He's been at the Cape. He hasn't performed at the Cape, but he's gotten a healthy amount of play there. I think this is kind of Astros taking a underslot deal with somebody and maybe helping navigate their draft while continuing their trends.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, we can move on and look at number 22 here, and that is my Atlanta Braves, who seem to pick only pitchers in the first round. For the last 4 years, they've had 5 first-round picks, and they were all pitchers, 3 high school guys and 2 college guys. So I guess, David, you're going to be picking for the Braves. Who you got here?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the Braves continue the pitcher trend. The question really is which pitcher, right? You've got Cruz Schoolcraft, who is the top lefty, high school pitcher. They just did top lefty high school pitcher last year. I can't see that happening again. Personally, I'm giving him Patrick Forbes. I think Forbes finds his way into this first round somewhere. He's good enough to get there. And then, you give him to the Braves, who are a really rich pitching, development and group. That's going to work. And it's between, I think, him, like Riley Quick, maybe Zach Root, and then obviously Schoolcraft. But I think a college pitcher is the way, I think, here for the Braves, where reinforcements hit a little bit quicker when you go from the college ranks. I think Forbes is one of the kind of quickest tracking remaining guys, where, in a normal draft, I feel like he probably goes in the top 15. This draft is just so like deep in that like middle 10 to 20 range, where there's like 30 guys you could feel like could go into the top 15 at any point. So, Forbes is a good pick. I think, Louisville, he's from the South, pitching in the heat. I think he'll be rock solid for the Braves.
Yeah, that would have been my pick too. I have him written down as the pick there. I'm gonna drop another Lance Brosdowski comp. This is the one that really stood out to me the most, just because the two guys he compared him to, it was like, oh, so this guy's gonna be like a good pitcher. Chase Dolander, Brian Wu.
Whoa.
And he's definitely got that Brian Wu kind of weird, funky, like three-fourths quarter release. Yeah, I mean he's definitely, when I like read about him and watch him, I just kind of get that feeling in my gut where I'm like, this guy's probably going to be pretty damn good. And it's Atlanta taking a pitcher. And then the one other thing I wanted to add for Atlanta specifically, if they do go prep, Landon Harmon, I think, is the guy that goes to them. He's got a pretty big fastball, and that kind of just matches up with the prep guys they've taken around this range in the past.
Yeah, and I will say, I wouldn't be. I'm the Forbes pick sounds like a Braves pick to me, but man, I really wish they could get some up the middle help in this draft, especially maybe a fast mover. They really are bare on up the middle bats in the farm system right now. So I don't know if Billy Carlson would take a deal there, or if they would overslot for him or what. But that would definitely be on my wish list as a Braves fan. But I guess we can move on. Number 23 is going to be the Kansas City Royals, who perennially have had a bad farm system, but have figured out how to make it work into a pretty decent core. And last year they picked Jack Caglione. He's already in the big leagues. So 2023 here, the Royals, it's Andrew's pick. So what you got here?
Yeah, this will be a quick one. They've been connected to prep. I have Hammond written down, but Cunningham being here, I think, is really interesting. It's kind of like the reverse type, like archetype of prep guy. Cunningham, all contact, elite barrel control, more in zone contact rate than Tamar Johnson, who we were told was like this generational, once in a lifetime contact bat, and that hasn't played out exactly so far in his career. I've read that Kaysen is the prep guy that's falling in the draft this year, which I think is unfortunate because it's always cool to see guys with a big tool get taken and kind of get the respect for it. I'm going to go Josh Hammond, though. It might be one of my favorite prep guys this year. Yeah. I mean, at this point, is Fiend still here too? Like, I lose track. I mean, it's crazy. I feel like we got told like prep guys weren't going to exist anymore at the NIL either. And there's a million of these guys in the upper end of the class this year. But yeah, I mean, they've been connected to prep the entire cycle basically. And I think Hammond's the one that was a pitcher or a two-way guy. Yeah. 96 fastball plus slider, I've read. But he's taken strides this year when he's focused on hitting. And I think he's a late riser where kind of like a lesser version of Pierce, you're kind of looking at actually pretty good upside for a bat. And it's maybe a steal, I guess, considering all the other prep guys that went ahead of him at this point.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we can move on. Number 24 is going to be the Detroit Tigers. They've figured out a way to be the best team in baseball this year. They've been awesome. That's kind of despite their first round picks from the last 3 or 4 years, not totally working out so far. A lot of injuries involved there. Max Clark's been pretty decent in the minors, I believe. Last year they picked Bryce Rainier in the first round. And I guess, we'll see what the Tigers do here at 24. So David, make the pick.
Yeah, I think that Billy Carlson's fallen far enough And I'll say the Tigers are going to do the rare kind of inverse. We talk about underslot a lot. I think they cut a big time overslot deal. They have the most remaining money of anybody in this first round. I don't think Carlson falls out of the first round, but again, we were just kind of predicting somebody's got to slide among these high school shortstops. It ends up just being Billy Carlson. This isn't any slide on Billy Carlson. He's obviously like a top 10-ish talent in this draft, but I think everybody from about 7 to 35 is probably a first round caliber player. It's just this draft is a lot deeper than it is like superstar heavy, and it's going to get jumbled in this middle area. That's why we're trying to take these snipe pot shots to try and grab some guys in certain areas. But yeah, Billy Carlson I think the Tigers kind of run to the board with that pick. I think he probably could have gone 23 to the Royals. I think that some of these other teams, I mean, maybe the Cubs, like, the Cubs don't have a huge bonus pool though, but like if the Rays, if Seth Hernandez doesn't get picked or it gets picked early, that could be kind of the landing spot, I think, for Billy Carlson in terms of like a floor. So this is probably really low for Billy Carlson and this kind of iteration of reality that we've constructed. But, he's an all around good player. He's kind of the all around, the jack of all trades, master of none in terms of tools among that shortstop group. I think he's solid. So we'll see. Tigers obviously have kind of nailed drafting of late. I mean, Kevin McGonigal, Josue Briseño, I think he's an international guy, but they've got a ton of Max Clark. Like
he's been
they went Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal in back-to-back picks, man. I just
not bad, pretty good.
Yeah, the Tigers, it's just saying thank you to the whole league for giving them like a top 10 player in this draft is exactly what would happen.
Absolutely. So I guess we can move on. Number 25 is going to be the San Diego Padres. So, the Padres over the last 4 or 5 years have either drafted a guy who ends up being a star or traded them. And then, of course, last year they haven't done anything with Cash Mayfield yet. But who knows? Cash Mayfield will probably get traded because he plays for the Padres and he's in their minor league system. But I guess we could look at 25 here. Andrew, who are you going to pick for the Padres?
Yeah, and I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They take prep guys, so that's kind of maybe this is how it's going to end, I guess, with 5 straight prep guys. Fiend's already fallen far enough. It's just so funny reading about these guys because it's like everyone's like, "Oh, this is the best prep guy this year," and I've read that like 12 times researching for the draft, and it's just like, yeah, they're all going to be good. But yeah, it's gonna be Fiend, 6'3", 200 Texas commit. He won the MVP at the MLB All-American game, hit 400 at the 18U World Cup qualifiers for Team USA. He's kind of got a funky like stance where his hands are a little higher up and he kind of pushes back and then swings, but it's worked. He's a line drive hitter right now, and he's obviously got already a pretty developed frame. Third base for sure. But yeah, I mean, I keep saying it. This is what this draft is. There's just so many prep guys. And yeah, I mean, he'll be traded in 2 years or whatever anyway. So it's not like it really matters for the Padre fans if they're watching, but yeah, I mean, he's fallen at this point in this mock. He's definitely one of the guys I think who has higher upside than all the prep guys.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we can move on. Number 26 is going to be the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Phillies have picked pretty late in the draft for 3 or 4 years in a row now. Haven't had the best luck so far. Andrew Painter, of course, dealing with a lot of injuries from I believe he was 4 or 5 years ago. Aiden Miller is a top prospect right now. So he very well might work out. But Dante Nore was their first pick last year, who was, I believe, if I remember right, that was a shocker. And he has not been great in the minors. So the Phillies here at number 26. David, who are you going with?
Yeah, 5 straight high schoolers for the Phillies in their last 5 first-round picks. I'm sticking with it, and I think this is the floor there for Case and Cunningham. We mentioned him talking about some of these other prep guys. He's obviously got that big time hit tool, but he's also not a shortstop, so that would not clash with Aiden Miller, who looks like a shortstop. And then obviously they have Trey Turner there for a number of years, so guys that can pull off a shortstop are probably going to be in the Phillies rotation for pitchers, and Cunningham having to move off that position isn't going to, I think, bother them. And this is a guy who could easily be a top 15 type pick, right? He's got probably the best hit tool among the high schoolers at the very least in the draft. But you're talking about a guy who's almost certainly not going to stay at shortstop. And if you're that confident in it, then it's like, a lot of these teams are going to try to pick somebody who might stay at shortstop. And that's why we have him so low. But I mean, for a run of 4 straight high schoolers here, and it probably isn't over yet. So this draft is going to be all about the prep guys and who can hit on the next like Connor Griffin type to ascend, because he's probably the next number 1 prospect in baseball, and he went 9 last year.
Yeah, I think Kaysen's one of the other really polarizing players that I've read in this draft. The hit tools, it's crazy. I saw that 96% in zone contact number. Or maybe it was 99 even.
That's 96. I think
96.
Yeah. I posted in Discord today.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. But with that, I mean, he's listed at 5'10". I don't even know if he's 5'10". He looks 5'8" to me. He's another Texas commit. He's older as well. He's one of the older prep guys in the class. Mm-hmm. He's eligible for the draft in 2027. So I think if he does fall far enough in this draft, you could see him go to Texas and then come back in, less than 2 years. But yeah, I mean, again, these prep guys, it's just like, he's really the prep guy where it's like, he's a second baseman and he has the best contact in the draft. Where the other guys kind of have more athletic profiles and it's shortstop or center field. He's really the most interesting and unique prep guy in this class. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard when everybody connected says he's going to fall. That kind of leads me to believe he's going to end up at Texas, but who knows? Maybe, I guess Luis Arias is kind of the comp there with the shorter stature and the hit tool. But yeah, we'll see with him. I think if he does get picked, he's a guy I'm going to watch out of this class and follow, because it is really interesting to follow a player who has a unique skill set like that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So I guess we'll move on here to number 27. This will be our last pick of the first round. The Mets, Dodgers, and Yankees forfeited their first round picks because they signed qualifying offer free agents. So the Guardians, who had the first pick last year in the first round, have the last pick this year in the first round at number 27. They picked Travis Bazzana last year, who's been pretty good in the minors. A little bit of concern about his hit tool, but he's been solid. Who are the Guardians going to go with, Andrew?
Yeah, the Guardians, I believe, if I can pull it up here quick enough. So usually they're usually at the top of the bonus pool. This year they're a little more in the middle. Yeah, they've been connected, the college guys, and I don't even know what picks they have next. I'm sure they have a bunch of like random picks in the compensatory rounds or whatever, but they've been connected to college. For me, it's between 3 guys, Ethan Conrad, Andrew Fisher, and one of my guys, Devin Taylor, Indiana.
Gotta give it to him then.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Devin Taylor. I don't think he's going to be the pick, but in my opinion, he's the best offensive player in the class. He's a stud. I'm going to pull up his WRC pluses, and they're all like just insane numbers, like video game numbers. I can pull up quick enough. This year, 169 WRC plus. Last year, 150 WRC plus. 2023, 143 WRC plus. 332 ISO, 303 ISO, 335 ISO, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And he hit on the Cape. And that part of it's interesting to me because this guy sounds really good. Like he's a great hitter, but he's a left fielder. And then even then, he's probably a DH relatively soon. So I think that's really the main reason why you're going to see him fall in the draft.
So he's basically Kyle Schwarber.
Amazing, right? From Indiana. Yep.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Schwarber was at least a catcher at that point too.
Yeah. I mean, it's 907 OPS in the Cape, 510 slug, 5 home runs, 4 doubles, a triple. I mean, he hits. And I think at a certain point in the draft, you stop reaching for potential and upside and you just go for the best guy available. And honestly, I would love to see him go higher. If I was the Cubs, he would be on my short list because, everybody has the DH now. Just get the best hitters. That's usually a pretty good strategy. I love Devin Taylor. I wouldn't be shocked. Merrick Houston fell here. I think he's a guy that makes a lot of sense for Cleveland as well.
Yeah. It's a glove first shortstop, Merrick Houston. I think kind of a lot of what we've been talking about is trying to dodge those pure glove guys, hoping they can hit one day, and jumping on the guys who can hit, hoping they can field one day. That tends to be more of a, at the very least, in terms of doing a mock, that's more fun.
Yeah.
Right? To take the hitter. Merrick Houston, last year, Seaver King, we had him like 18 or 20 or something like that. And he went in the top 10. Why?
Yeah.
Because he could hit, he could field, but they're hoping he could hit.
Yeah.
Right. And he hasn't hit. We look right. Nationals don't look so good on that. But it's one of those things where, it's way more fun to talk about the Devin Taylors of the world. Right. And see if those guys can turn into something. Right. And, I'm excited about that. And, honestly, this mock looks really interesting. I'm guessing no one's going to have Seth Hernandez at 14, though.
I guess not.
Yeah.
But
I'll say you really never know in the Major League Baseball draft because of the slot values. It's very difficult to pick. I mean, last year, you had like Cam Caminiti, I believe, was like ranked the top number 10 player in the class. He went with like number 25. He was the top pitcher, high school pitcher. Like, you just don't. It's very difficult to predict the Major League Baseball draft with based on just the order of where they're ranked in pipeline or something. So, and also shout out Damien is in the chat. So what's up, Damien? Hope your trip is going well. We'll see you next week. So I wanted to shout him out real quick. But yeah, so I guess that'll wrap it up for our mock draft. David, I believe we're going to do players of the week.
Yeah, we'll do them real quick. Obviously, we've gone just a little bit over in terms of time, but thank you for joining us. Please do like, subscribe, return, because next Sunday during the draft, we're going to go live for the draft. We're going to talk about it, talk about the picks, react to them live, probably reference this mock a lot. So tune back in, get our reaction when we're wrong, because we're going to be wrong for most of these, right?
Most of them.
It'll be really fun. And we'll definitely have Andrew back during the draft as well. So obviously get his reaction to some of these picks. But to wrap the draft up, that's been, it's really exciting. And it's one of my favorite times of year, right? The teams restock the farm system. They're doing the entire draft in 2 days this year, which is going to be insane.
It was already hard to follow.
Yeah, it was already difficult to follow. And they did cut from 40 rounds to 20 for us, but now they're doing 20 rounds in 2 days. I mean, that's wild. A lot of work for these front offices. Greg Zumack made it a point to note that for us back in our pre College World Series episode a few months ago. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump to the polls. Zach Wheeler has won 2 player of the day polls this week, and we've got some tied votes right now, but honestly, I think I'm just going to nominate that we make Zach Wheeler the player of the week because he won 2 of our player of the day polls this week. The other winners would have been Clayton Kershaw for getting 3,000 strikeouts, Michael Busch on July 4th for 3 home runs. We had 7 players get 2 home runs or more on July 4th.
Wow.
There was really not going to be any way. There was really not going to be any way to parse between that. So I went ahead and just dubbed Michael Busch the player of the day. No votes for either of those, but Zach Wheeler won June 30th and July 6th. George Springer won July 1st. He is currently tied for the lead on July 5th. So jump on the Twitter and vote for it real quick, and I'll make a note that we can switch to George Springer as well. But and then July 3rd is currently a tie between a couple of guys as well. I want to say I gotta pull it up. I had it pulled up and I lost it. Yeah, July 3rd is George Springer, Robbie Ray, Yuri Perez, or James Wood. They are tied.
It's a good day.
Yeah, and then July 6th, or sorry, man, thought I had it.
July 6th was yesterday.
Yeah, July 6th was yesterday. I'm looking for July
Zach
5th.
Wheeler is going to win.
I'm looking for July 5th. It ain't coming.
July 5th was Pete Alonso and Ryan Nelson were
That's what it
tied.
is. Yep. So I don't know. Who do you guys think between those two and between the four that are tied on the third? Do we make George Springer the auto winner on the third and then battle him out with Zach Wheeler for Player of the Week?
Well, I just voted because I forgot to vote on the third, and George Springer is now the pick. So.
All right. So between George Springer and Zach Wheeler, who is Player of the Week?
Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler.
That game that he pitched on Sunday, so close to a perfect game. He did give up the earned run, but that ball would have been caught. Well, Nick Castellanos was the guy that would have had to catch it, so there's a very good chance it wouldn't have been caught in ballparks. It wouldn't have been a home run in, yeah. But a normal right fielder in a normal ballpark probably would have caught that ball. So right. Definitely a crazy performance, and the fact that he's on there twice this week too. He's on fire right now, and I mean, I know Paul Skeens getting a lot of the publicity, but Zach Wheeler under the radar has probably been the best pitcher in the National League this year.
Done. Zach Wheeler is your Player of the Week for June 30th to July 6th. We still have not had a repeat Player of the Week winner this season, but it's been a wonderful season. It's been cool to follow. Please do go vote on the polls. Follow us at Batflip Podcast on Twitter. That's where I'm posting the polls each and every day. We also have at Batflip Entertain for non-podcast polls. Maybe we'll talk about college football 26 there or something. But
boy,
that's about it. That's about it for me, guys. This has been fun. I'm excited about the draft next week.
Yep. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight, Andrew. You got any final thoughts?
No, yeah. Thank you for having me 2 years in a row. Is that technically a tradition now, or?
Yeah, it is. You better be here next year.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's so much information in an hour and 30 minutes. But yeah, the draft is always just awesome because you get to. There's so many strategies and variations of players. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll be interesting. It never plays out how you think it's gonna. So I hope to be on here for the draft. But yeah, just thank you for having me. I always appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for us tonight. Again, Sunday night we'll be live for the draft. So check us out then. And in the meantime, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you have any picks that you would have made instead of the ones we made, put it in the comments. Be great to get some feedback there. And thanks everybody for joining, and we'll catch you next time.